In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how the concept of forgiveness is weaponized in spiritually abusive environments and by spiritually abusive people. Something that I have heard and observed frequently is that people who are either going through spiritual abuse or have been through it have often been accused of not forgiving other people. And um, the way that this is brought up and the way that it has just generally discussed is used as a way to maintain spiritually abusive behavior. And so I'll give you an example. When people are in spiritually abusive environments, there can be other spiritually abusive relationships that are going on, or just other abusive relationships or situations, period. And individuals who have been through spiritual abuse in maybe another arena of their life, such as like their marriage or a family relationship, are accused of that by that environment of being unforgiving simply because they have chosen to maintain healthy boundaries and distance from the abusive person. And one part of understanding spiritual abuse is really understanding and being able to perceive the little ways in which it can occur. And this is one. When you think about the concept of forgiveness, there's nothing wrong with it. I think that, and from what I've seen in the research as well, forgiveness can be very helpful. It can be a healing part of one's recovery journey, and there's so many benefits to forgiving. The problem is that it is often weaponized by abusive people as a way to coerce the victim into reuniting with a person or a family or a system that is abusive and does not have their best interests at hand. And so, think about the last time you were accused of not forgiving somebody. When did that occur and how did that occur? Maybe it was a situation where you didn't forgive the person, you either didn't want to or you weren't ready, whatever. But in some of those situations, you could have been accused of not forgiving somebody simply because you said, this happened, I didn't like it, I have a problem with it. You could have said something, or you could have also created a boundary, right? You could have just maintained your distance from that person. You could have decided that you didn't want to be in a relationship with that person anymore. And a lot of times people, especially in these types of environments, conflate forgiveness with reconciliation. Forgiveness is an internal process. People, you can forgive somebody who is dead. You could forgive somebody that you've never even had like a personal interaction with. And so when you forgive someone, it doesn't mean that you need to be in a relationship with them. Forgiveness is a personal choice. Reconciliation is something that happens when both parties are ready and they want to do that. And so I want you to understand and be aware of this rhetoric that you might hear accusing you of not being forgiving. A way to break this down is think about why let's say that someone accuses you of not forgiving somebody. First of all, I don't know if that's something that anybody can accurately discern. Forgiveness is an internal process, and so you can forgive someone and still not like them, not like certain things about them, and not want to be in a relationship with them. Think about forgiveness as a release, basically a canceling of a debt that is owed. I'm not going to go too much into forgiveness in this video, but spiritually abusive people and environments really rush and fast track this process of forgiveness. You'll see that in these environments, they don't allow people to mourn what has been taken from them, what they've lost, just what's happened to them. And I talk about this in some of my videos that spiritually abusive people tend to be very dismissive. And so when you hear things like, well, did you forgive this person? That can be a method of dismissing you. Many times people who say this don't come from a place of genuine concern. If somebody is concerned about you not forgiving someone, I think genuine concern would reflect how you are being affected by the unforgiveness. Whereas people in these cases can be very controlling, and they want to see people getting along, or at least look like they're getting along, so they don't have to deal with certain issues. You know, some of you have talked about just growing up in very unhealthy family systems, and you would have people in your family really prioritize you and somebody else in the family getting along versus, you know, and they prioritize this over your own health, and they won't address harmful behaviors that have been done. And so you'll see this when people who have been abused by a spouse or a partner are told that they don't forgive them because they're not in relationship with them anymore, or they've chosen to set boundaries or expectations for change. So for instance, let's say that you're talking with someone and you say, well, I'm not going to get back together with this person unless they get help for their addiction and they stop verbally and physically abusing me. Well, that person, somebody who is not spiritually abusive, would want to support you with that. And instead of questioning whether you've forgiven them, they say, well, you know, how can we help? What are some things that you need? And encourage you in this process of getting healthy. Whereas spiritually abusive people would automatically assume you didn't forgive them, or they might throw platitudes your way saying, well, we all have to love each other, we have to forgive. You can't judge people. We all have our hardships, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm talking about. I've talked about this in some of my other videos before. So I want you to understand and be very aware of how forgiveness is weaponized. When you are going through your spiritual abuse journey, it is up to you to choose, to make that choice to forgive, but you're not on. I want you to kind of get rid of this idea that you have to prove to other people that you've forgiven somebody, especially if you're in a spiritually abusive environment. Remember that people who think this way, who are abusive, like appearance over authenticity. So they're going to want to force or coerce reconciliation in the absence of changed behavior. And so that's something, again, I don't want you to feel like you have to be in the business of always explaining yourself to other people and saying, well, this is why I did this, or this is why I didn't do this, or whatnot. What I do want you to do, however, is to be able to affirm these truths and concepts to yourself, and look at forgiveness and relationships as being on two independent planes or axes, right? You can be in a relationship with someone and not forgive them, right? So you being in a relationship, you having boundaries, that is a mark of health and recovery. And so what I said before about the concept of forgiveness, I want you to pay attention to that, because when people say, oh, you need to forgive, and weaponize that against you in the way that I talked about, it's not, encouraging forgiveness is not in of itself abusive, but abusive people tout this in a way to maintain that issue of looking good versus actually doing good things. And also people say this because sometimes they want access to you. You know, they want to accuse you of not forgiving them because you are setting healthy boundaries for yourself. So don't fall for that trap. Really understand the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation, and focus on doing things that you need to do to get yourself healthy. So I hope that helps. I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. Have you experienced that? And if so, how did you deal with that, having for the concept of forgiveness weaponized against you? And what advice would you have for others? If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. You go to my website, skillsetcounseling.com, to book a free consultation. And I hope you have a wonderful day that is filled with peace and joy. Bye-bye.